These are all of the books that I read in the month of August. Hello and welcome to my August wrap up. I read 5 books in the month of August. Here they all are. August was not a great month for me, but I read 5 books, so there's the plus side on that. I have a freaking hair in my lip gloss. There we go. Normally in a month I read about 2 books, maybe 3. I feel like 3 is probably about my average for a month. So 5, I've done pretty good this month. I did rediscover my love for audiobooks. So 2 of these are audiobooks. So technically I read 3 and I listened to 2. Listening to audiobooks, you're still consuming the book, so I read 5. The first book that I read this month was 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This was incredible. I rated it 5 stars. It was phenomenal. Last month I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I only read the first book because that's the only book I have, and I'm on a book buying ban, so I'm sticking to it. And I am very close to breaking that ban to buy the other 2. In the meantime, to set me at ease, I read this because I already hauled this, I think, last year. So 5 Survive is about 6 teenagers in an RV. We're in the USA, it's spring break, and these 6 teenagers are traveling from, I want to say New York. Is it New York? Somewhere up the top of the East Coast, and they're traveling all the way down to, I believe, Florida. There's a map. Why am I like Philadelphia? They're going from Philadelphia to Gulf Shores? Is that even Florida? I have no idea. What I'm learning is I don't know American geography as well as I thought I did. It's our main character Red, her best friend, and her best friend's brother, his girlfriend, and then their 2 other friends. One of them is a friend from school, and the other is the friend from school's friend who's not from their school. Basically, there's 6 of them in this RV. They're traveling down to Florida, and all of a sudden they get lost and one of the tires gets blown out, and essentially they're stuck in an RV for 8 hours. We're reading it hour by hour, and I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. I read this in about 4 days. It would have taken me less time to read it. It's just that every time I picked it up, I was thinking, I can't put this down, I can't put this down. So I had to like think about when I was going to pick it up, because I knew if I picked it up, that would be it. I'd be reading for ages. I had to get stuff done, basically. I had shit to do. I couldn't put this down. It was incredible. It's heartbreaking. One character, if you know, you know, I hate him with all my being. Every time he opened his mouth, I was so angry with him, and it takes a lot to be angry at a character, because most angry characters or most villain characters are written in a way that makes you like them. I was gonna say the villain in this. He's not the villain. He's just an asshole. I think this was just incredible. It had me on the edge of my seat the entire time, and I haven't read a thriller that has made me this on the edge of my seat before. I was obsessed. Every time I read it, I was like, I need to know what happens. Holly Jackson just has a way with words that is addictive. Like, her writing style is so addictive. It just makes me want to read and read and read and read until I can't read anymore. I think she's amazing. I've only read 2 of her books, so she is definitely on the list to read more of. Red, our main character, is quite unreliable as a narrator. I related very much to her flitting between subject to subject. That's how I think all the time. I don't know if you can tell. The editing in this video is so choppy because I just flip from one thing to the other, and I have to cut that out and move it there and cut that out and move it there. I will warn you, it is very open-ended. It leaves you thinking, and it's sort of almost like you can make up the ending for yourself, which I know some people love, some people hate. I personally, I'm on the fence even now. Everything in the RV is resolved. It's just the very, very end. There's something between 2 of the characters, and I like to think one way, and I know that some people probably don't like that character and they want to think the other way, in the other direction. I'm trying to do this without spoiling it, and it's really hard. Yeah, basically it's an open ending, which I know isn't everyone's favorite, but I think it was good. That's 5 Survive, 5 stars. Incredible, incredible. Next up, I read another YA contemporary, but this time it was a romance. I read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is my first Ali Hazelwood book. I own a couple of them. I think I own Love Theoretically and Love on the Brain, I believe. This is my first one that I've ever read, and I really enjoyed it, actually. What did I rate it? Oh my god, it would be useful if I just knew these things before I opened my mouth. I rated this 4 stars. I really, really liked this. I really liked our main characters. Our female main character is queer queer, which I am a big fan of. I feel like anyone who knows me knows that if a book or a movie or a TV show has gay people in it, I will watch it. I'll consume that thing. I had no idea that she was queer when I picked it up, and I'm very glad she is. Her queerness was never the main focus of the book. I need to find some more books that are literally just queer people living their life without needing to explain what their preferences are or anything, because like realistically we just like who we like. And that's it. And that is exactly how Mallory, our female main character, was. I'm getting off topic. This book is about chess, and I am a big chess fan. I went through a phase probably 3 or 4 years ago now where I was just obsessed with chess, and I forced my mum and my sister to play with me constantly. I really loved diving deep into chess. It was like a nice collision between two worlds. Mallory has 2 little sisters and they are wonderful. Hi Dottie! My Staffy has come into the room demanding bum scratches. I'm gonna have to show you. She loves a bum scratch. Okay, she's run out of the room now. She did briefly bark when I turned it off because I wasn't stroking her bum, so my bad. It is kind of an enemies to lovers, although I feel like it wasn't really. It was more like Mallory denying her feelings the entire time, and our male main character, what is his name? Sawyer. No, that's his last name. Nolan is basically just like in love with her the entire time. I really loved all the references to chess. You can really tell that Ali Hazelwood took her time to dive into the chess world. I don't know if she was a fan of chess before writing the book. I feel like she must have been. I loved the female empowerment and Nolan truly believing in Mallory. He was so lovely. I think he suffers with RBF. You think he's thinking one thing, but actually he's just really soft. And I loved him. I really enjoyed him. I will admit though, this did feel more like a new adult than young adult. There was a lot of mentions of sex. Mallory was literally doing it all the time. I feel like it read more like a new adult book than a young adult, but obviously Ali Hazelwood is used to writing adult books. I just would recommend this for older teenagers. I want to say like 16 up. But other than that, it was a great read. I really enjoyed it, and I do find myself thinking about them. Very nice, very cute. And his his 2 best friends are amazing, and I love them to pieces. Next up was an audiobook. I have been reading this series for months now. I began on my Kindle and then I switched to audio. This book is I think it's the 6th in the series, and that is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I read The Silver Chair and it was beautiful. I don't expect any less from C.S. Lewis. The world of Narnia is just so wonderful to read about. This is the 3rd book without the Pevensies. We get to see Eustace a bit more, and obviously he's very different to when we first meet him in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. He knows about Narnia now and he's so happy to be back there, and we've got a new character called Jill, and she's awesome. And there is what's his name? Puddleglum, that's his name, and he's I don't know, he's some kind of like magical creature. I just love this series. Even as an adult reading it, it's still so thrilling and interesting, and this whole world that C.S. Lewis created with Narnia, it feels like home. That's the only way I can describe it. I grew up with those stories, and to read more about them, because I only really grew up with the films and then the first couple of books. Basically, I love this series. I am halfway through the last book, The Last Battle, and I am not ready. I'm not ready for it to end. Each audiobook is narrated by a different person. It's really nice to hear different people narrating each book as well, and they all do the voices for each of the characters, and I love this series. I love this series so much. Every time I put it on, I'm like transported to that world, and I love it so much. Next up, I carried on a series that I began reading at the beginning of the year. I read the first book, I loved the first book, and then I stopped because I'm dumb, I guess. That is the 2nd book in the Caraval series, Legendary, by Stephanie Garber. This series is just beautiful. Stephanie Garber has a way with words. Her writing is just so eloquent and magical, and it transports you there. It's beautiful. I forgot to mention this when I was filming for some reason, but I rated this book a 4.5 stars. I absolutely love it. We see Scarlett and Julian, who were the main characters in the last book. This book follows Donatella, who's Scarlett's sister. We meet Jax, who is the Prince of Hearts, who's a fate. So he's immortal, he has magical powers. He's he's so unapologetically him, and he does what he wants and he gets away with it because he's a fake. We see a lot more of Dante throughout it, who we met in the last book, who was kind of mean in the last book. I will admit I did miss seeing Scarlet more, because obviously I spent a lot of time with her in the first book. I felt like I wanted to see more of them, but obviously you only get glimpses of them in this book because it is about Donatella. I rated this 4.5 stars. I really enjoy it. I love Stephanie Garber's writing. Like I said, her writing is so descriptive and beautiful, and a lot of the time I find that people use this sort of flowery descriptive language too much, and then it sort of takes you out of the book. That is not what Stephanie Garber does. It just adds to that whole magical, wistful, sort of fairy tale-esque feeling within the book that I just adored. I thought it was so beautiful. This again is another YA. I'm currently reading the last book and I do not want it to end because it's so good, but I also know that I've got a whole other series of hers. I'm nervous though. I'm nervous. Anyway, the ending is... I'm obsessed. I loved it a lot. Okay, and then the last book that I read on audio, and it was a full cast narration, so I highly recommend listening to the audiobook of this. It is a series, there's a little hint for you, and it's read by the same people, or at least two of the same people that are in the series, which is Chef's Kiss, because they are two of my favourite people in the entire universe. And that book is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Before we continue, I do feel that I should speak briefly about the allegations that have come out about Neil Gaiman. I wholeheartedly stand by the victims in this situation, and I'm very disappointed in Neil Gaiman, as he's someone I've looked up to for a very long time. So I just want it to be known that I stand with the victims in this situation, and I wish them all the best. This is a book that has been on my TBR forever, and in my video at the beginning of the year about books I wanted to read this year, this was on it, and I have tried to read it so many times and I've never got past a certain point, but the audiobook, oh my gosh, it was so good. David Tennant and Michael Sheen, who play both Crowley and Aziraphale in the Amazon Prime series, narrated the audiobook, and they just made it for me. They were amazing. Arthur Darvill, who's Rory in Doctor Who, he plays Newton Pulsifer. There was Lady Danbury from Bridgerton. She narrates some bits. Oh, it was just fantastic. It was so good. Listening to it was just such a good experience. I highly recommend listening to it. It was so much fun. I always prefer when it's a full cast production. We love a full cast production. It follows these two characters, an angel and a demon, called Aziraphale and Crowley, and they are almost like unlikely friends. They've been together since the creation of the world, and now it is time for Armageddon. Adam, who is the Antichrist, he's 11 years old, and he is bringing on the end of the world, but he doesn't realise it. It follows Aziraphale and Crowley kind of realising that actually they want the world to stay the world because they actually really like humans. We see the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It almost feels like Supernatural. Like if you've watched Supernatural, it's kind of like that sort of vibe where it's like all of these almost characters that you know from the Bible. It was just a phenomenal read. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, I know the story because I've watched the show before I ever read the book, because David Tennant and Michael Sheen. But yeah, this sort of expanded it a bit more. I will say I think I do prefer the show, which is a shame. The show is so similar to the book. It was like I was watching the show in my head. I gave this a 4.5 stars, purely, I think, because I preferred the show. But then I suppose maybe that's just because it's David Tennant and Michael Sheen, like I've said like 3 times already, and they just are something else, aren't they? Especially those two together. I can understand why there's such a cult following. It's so interesting to see all these characters towing the line between good and evil. Aziraphale, who's an angel, is like, well, I have to be good, and Crowley, who's a demon, is like, I have to be bad. But they're towing that line. Sometimes Aziraphale wants to do something that's seen as bad, and the same with Crowley. Like, he wants to do something good. They just want the world to be the world because they've lived there for so long and they really like humans. It was just such a good read and such a good listen. I highly recommend you listen to the audiobook. So that is it. That is the 5 books that I read in August. They were very good. I enjoyed a lot of them. None of them are below 4 stars, actually. Unheard of, I feel like. Yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books and if you like any of these books. What are your thoughts and feelings on them? Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? Do you hate any of them or love any of them? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what you read this month. Anything I should add to my TBR? Anything I should avoid? I'd love to know. I'd love to know what you guys are reading and what you recommend. And with that, that is the end of the video. Oh my gosh, crazy. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it if you stuck it out until this point, because I know I ramble. I'm a yapper. And I do just want to say, if you're still subscribed to this channel, well done. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful day or night, depending on where you are or what time it is when you're watching this. And yeah, have some fun reading. Pick up a book. You know you want to. I never know how to end these videos. Oh my god. Catch you on the flippity flip. Flippity flop. Yeah. Catch you on the flippity flop. That was disgusting. I'm never saying that ever again.